Sorry, my bad. I did effectively touch the wrong keys, right? So we left off with couldn't have left the dog on its own, and this idea of unwillingness, um, because you think this is wrong, right? Now there are other two meanings I would like to add here. One is that of annoyance. You could have told me. Yes, you could have told me you were coming. Now, in this case, could is less strong than might. Yes, and it is very possible, right? Definitely, might is much more could have. They could have forgotten to call. In this case, that's just a possibility, right? And I think that's all. Let me just because this is usually. No, there isn't a reference for that, right? Well, we'll see this then again just later with might have. I insist might have is much more forceful, but could have is also possible, right? You could have told me. You could have done it. Annoyance, irritation. And also, there's one more meaning, which is impossibility in the past. We couldn't have taken the car by mistake because we didn't have the keys, right? So we couldn't have done that because we were not able to do it, right? So interesting addition. Now, when you turn the page, you're going to find something that I think is one of the most interesting things about could. We can use could to talk about the past, could in the affirmative to talk about the past, which is very odd, right? Because usually, as you can see, we have seen every modal as have, could have done, might have done. But in this case, we can use could to talk about the past in two very specific situations. One is when we talk about past permission. I am on page 66, right? Past permission or ability. So when I was 16, I could stay out till 11. I was allowed to. Mary could swim when she was 3. She actually did, right? Well, that means she had this ability. Now, if you pay attention to this, it refers to actions that were habitual or states in the past, something that was not just one occurrence, right? Now, if you want to talk about one occurrence in the past, one thing you were able to do in the past, well, precisely you're going to use were able to. So the three forms you have are was able to, managed to, or succeeded in. Right? Now, was able to is maybe the least marked, right? So I did it. Managed to suggest a lot of a lot of effort, and succeeded in suggests well, effort, but it focuses on accomplishment, right? Well, very good. Remember this, because actually, when you use couldn't, the thing changes, right? You can say I couldn't open the door, and you refer to one instance, right? I couldn't, I don't know, fix the problem. No pude, right? So in the past, we can use couldn't to talk about one situation. Please do not get mixed up with something like, oh, I couldn't do that. When I say I couldn't do that, like I couldn't leave, I don't know, an animal on its own, I mean now, in the present. And when I'm talking about I couldn't open the door, I am talking about the past, right? Now, of course, this may refer to the present. It is very odd when talking about opening a door, right? But the fact remains that when you use couldn't, you need to think about whether the reference is present time or past time. So be very careful with could, right? Remember, to talk about the past is just for permission or ability, right? All right, and then we're going to go move on to may have and might have, both of them suggesting possibility in the past. You might have drowned, the first one. It refers to something that did not happen, that you know did not happen, right? Now, when we use may and might, on many occasions, they are interchangeable, right? But this is not always so. We'll have a look at that. Now, this may get a bit confusing, so don't worry if that is so. You can just skip it, right? So, might have drowned refers to a possibility that did not take place. It sounds a bit reproachful, doesn't it? Sorry, let's go to might here in our notes. Right. The next one in your notes, page 66, I insist, I suppose I may have been rather critical. And in this case, you can also use might. Yes. Not in the other one, because you know it happened. We'll see that later. In this case, I may have been rather critical. I might have been rather critical. And there's a different degree of certainty there, right? I might have been critical. I don't think I was. I may have been critical. Well, maybe I was, right? So there's a minor difference there, right? And the same happens with the next one, which is the same possibility. They may not have received our letter yet. They might not have received our letter yet. Right, so this is, in both cases, this is hypothesis. I want to check, sorry, might have, no, there aren't any references to that with that one, but might have. The pills might have helped him. Now, look at this sentence. We'll see this in a bit. Again, right? The pills might have helped him if only he'd taken them regularly. So you know that he didn't take the pills regularly, so they didn't help him, right? That's why you cannot use may here. May have helped him, because when you say may, you don't know, right, whether this actually was good or not. This is what we're going to see here when we go to these notes, right? No, yes, here from Dropbox, the notes on Dropbox. Let's see if I have another might have. You might have told me. Remember, this is the one that shows annoyance. Well, do not remember because I haven't told you yet. Sorry. Actually, that's point number 4. The next point, you might have told me my trousers were split, right? And this might suggests irritation, right? Remember, I told you could use could as well. You could have told me, but might is much stronger, right? And the intonation is much more noticeable, right? The focus is on might. You might have told me, right? Okay. And then we have point number 5. Which is also very idiomatic. I might have known he'd be late. I might have known. This is, I know he's always late, so I should have known, basically, right? This is very idiomatic. And this I might have known is very much like the similar me, right? I know too. All right. Now, I wanted to take you to these notes, which, as I said earlier, appear in Dropbox. And these are taken from the New Fowler's Modern English Language, edited by Robert Birchfield, right? So this is a very old book that was actually rewritten in the 80s by Birchfield, and he took many comments from him. And it talks about this difference I mentioned earlier when we saw this example, right? Sorry, let's go back to this one because I think it was very good. The pills might have helped him if only he'd taken them regularly. We know he didn't take them regularly, so we can use only might, not may. And if we go here, actually Birchfield tells us that since at least the 60s, writers in Britain and America, despite distress signals put up by linguistic scholars, which is a beautiful way of saying, well, knowledgeable people say, wait, that's wrong, have used may have for might have in context, each of them expressing a hypothetical possibility like the following. I'm going to focus only on the last one. A mentally ill man may not have committed suicide had he been kept in hospital rather than being discharged to be cared for in the community. And you see the asterisk here because we know he committed suicide. So the correct answer here is might, right? Now, I am going to leave the explanation to you, right? Because it is quite long. I don't want to read it out. I strongly recommend that you read it. But if you find this confusing, don't worry so much, right? Well, you can stop the video or directly go to the notes, right? Okay, so now we're going to move on to must have and can't have, right? Both for inference or deduction, right? Now it says here, these refer to the speaker's certainty about a past action. Someone must have taken it. You can't have lost it. No, this is not certainty because I am not sure they did or they didn't. I am practically sure they did or didn't. So this is deduction or inference. This is what I prefer. So don't say certainty because clearly there isn't any kind of certainty, right? And you can use this surely, which is beautiful, especially because of the rise and fall stress. Surely you can't have eaten all of it, right? All right, I won't repeat that. It's very annoying. Okay, so that's quite straightforward, isn't it? Then we're going to move on to would, right? We have this first use. Everyone was angry because sorry, Sam wouldn't turn off the television. In Clearly this is past reference. Sorry, right? This is past reference, but we can use this wouldn't in the present, right? He wouldn't do this, right? In the same way we say he won't do this, right? And we both will and would are very idiomatic in this use, but also they refer to repetition, right? Repetition and insistence on the part of the doer and irritation on the part of the interlocutor, right? Okay, let me just see. Would you mind? Well, we'll go to this one in a minute, right? When you mean used to. Now, so in this case, we're using would to talk about the past without have plus a past participle, right? It's not he wouldn't have turned off the television, and still we're talking about the past. Remember, there was this other use of would when my parents were away. My grandmother would take care of me. He would always be the first to offer help. They shouldn't use apostrophe D here, right? Now it says here the synonym is used to, but remember that first, used to can be used with any kind of verb, whereas would cannot be used with stative verbs. I cannot say I would have longer hair, right? I used to have longer hair. Both of them refer to actions which are no longer true now and which were habitual in the past. However, would has a more ritualistic feel to it, right? Remember, I always describe it as ritualistic because it refers to a set of activities that were repeated together as a kind of ritual, right? She would take care of me. He would always be the first to offer help. We would take long walks and we would talk about our personal issues and stuff and so on and so forth. So remember that would, when talking about the past, this ritualistic would also has a sense of reminiscing, right? The verb was to reminisce. Reminisce, the spelling, right? Reminiscence and reminiscent of, thank you, dictionary. To reminisce, and basically this means to remember fondly, right? To remember fondly, right? Now, it's not always fondly, right? Remember, if you go back to the recording, I think it's unit 2 or 3, the past, it's not always fondly, right? Sometimes you remember something that was not very pleasant. So I insist that we're looking at this modal would to talk about the past without have and a past participle, right? Now, if you go back to your notes, we can use would have accepted, as in the first example, right? I would have accepted the job, but I didn't want to move house, right? And this is a sort of conditional clause in hiding, right? Kind of uh, if I had wanted to move house, I would have accepted the job, right? And we also have this use of would, which is for assumptions, right? That would have been Kathy, right? And what you mean that probably was Kathy, right? Someone called, that would have been Kathy. And to be frank, we never mentioned this use in the present, right? Um, uh, and you can see how tentative this is, right? That would have been Kathy. Uh, what you mean is that possibly that was Kathy. Now, what about the use in the present, so it doesn't belong in this unit, of somebody stole the cake? That would be me, right? So it's a highly idiomatic use of would. It's not very frequent, but it's a way of mitigating the assertion, right? Yes, it was me. I did it, right? Okay, to close the unit, we're going to have a look at need in the negative, right? Notice once again that actually we don't say need have gone, but there's a lot to be said about needn't have done something, right? And also, once again, we'll be changing the notes here in your course book. Um, when you say you needn't have paid all at once, this example here under point number 1, you needn't have paid all at once, you clearly understand that you did pay and it wasn't necessary, right? You needn't have paid, you paid, and it wasn't necessary. Now, when we go to the next example, I didn't need to go to the dentist again, and please add, I didn't have to go to the dentist again. Actually, we don't know. We don't know if this was necessary and you didn't do it, or if it was necessary and you did it. So pay attention. You can finish the sentence by saying, I didn't need to go to the dentist again, comma, but I did. Or, I didn't need to go to the dentist again, so I didn't. Right? So only the context will tell you because maybe you didn't add this, but I did, or so I didn't, right? So remember, when I say I didn't need to go or I didn't have to go, yes, the same. I didn't need to go. Jesus, didn't have to go, right? So, but I did. So I didn't. Let's use right? So you don't know, basically, unless you have some context. Remember that when I say needn't have done something, I did it and it wasn't necessary, okay? Well, the next point is about adding adverbs, which actually doesn't add anything to what we have to say. So check out all the activities. Actually, they're very good, very useful, all of them to the last one, right? There's some confusing sentences, and in most cases, what will happen is that you will be asking me, but can't I use this other modal? And maybe in some cases I will say, yes, you can. But for example, when we're talking about you could have told me to show annoyance, I will say, well, better use might have. Now, I want you to remember that could have told me is annoyance and might have told me shows much more irritation, right? Also, I would like to remind you that you can check out the use of modality in our reference book, which is Practical English Usage by Swan. But you can also do the same I did here, which is to look up the modals in the dictionary, and also under Merriam-Webster. Well, I still have the expletive form. It is true that I do not recommend that you do this unless you are very familiar with the information I have given you. You can see that the information about modality is quite complete, quite varied. So I suggest that you have a good idea of what you have here in these notes, and that then if you wish to do further research, you continue doing so by using dictionaries, sorry, and reference books. And also these boxes that dictionaries give you, right? They're very, very useful actually, right? Okay, so that will be all. Thank you very much.